first, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of context about what microscopes are. They're usually tools used by scientists, and they make things that are small appear larger. Things don't always look the same when we observe them in a magnified way. So today we're going to take a look at some micro images and compare them to their macro images, and we're going to play some fun games. We're going to show you things from 3 categories today: things that come from plants, things that come from animals, and things that we're going to call minerals, which is anything that's not living that comes from the earth. It can be made from rock or sand or soil. But before we get too far into the fun, we're going to do a little bit of teaching about observations versus inferences. And to do that, we're going to look at this picture of a mountain lion. Can everyone see the mountain lion on their screen? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to ask my friend Chloe to make a few observations about this mountain lion.
Well, the first thing that I notice is that it has really soft, looks like pretty thick fur. I also noticed that it has some pretty big ears, and the coloring of the fur seems, it's like tan. It has a white underbelly. That's what I notice.
That's great. So basically, observations are things that when we look at something, we immediately see. So Chloe's seeing things and they're directly in front of her, and she can say, here is what I am seeing. So now, Chloe, do you want to take your observations and turn them into inferences about maybe what this animal does or its strengths?
Right. Yeah, so I said that it seems to have pretty thick fur, and what I would infer based on the fact that it has thick fur is that it might be able to live in a colder climate and still keep itself warm. I also said that it has big ears, so I'm assuming that it can hear pretty well. I can infer based on that observation that the mountain lion might be able to hear pretty well. Also, the coloring that I mentioned on the coat seems to blend in with the environment that I see in the picture. And based on that observation, I would assume, or I could infer that this animal would be pretty well camouflaged in its surroundings and would be a pretty good hunter.
Yeah, so that's great. What Chloe's basically showing you guys is that an inference is when we take our observations using the information that we know to turn it into something that we maybe don't know. So something that Chloe could see automatically was the coloring of the fur. The inference there was then, well, the colors kind of blend in with the background, so it probably has really good camouflaging skills, probably is a good hunter, things that we can't automatically see, but we can make a good guess based on what we are seeing. So now that we kind of know the difference between observation and inference, Chloe's going to show you some images under the microscope, and we're going to put those skills to the test and see if we can make some observation and inferences on the micro images.
Okay. All right. So here is the first.
Now, sometimes after we've done that screen sharing, you'll have to repin the video. All right. So if you want to make sure that the microscope is the video that you're seeing the biggest on your screen, so we can really look up close at these images and make some observations, then you'll want to pin that microscope video again.
Okay, so this is the first thing that I'm going to show you guys under the microscope, and I'll give you a second or two to look at it and think about maybe any observations that you could make just by looking at this microscopic image. And then if you want to share out, you can either raise your hand and unmute yourself if you have any observations that you want to share out, or you can put them in the chat and I can read through them there.
Looks like Nippon has something to say of raising their hand. Go ahead, Nippon.
You want to unmute yourself?
Is that hay? Horse hay?
Well, we'll get there, but why don't we make some observations first? So what about like the color of it? What does it look like to you?
Yellow and purpley.
Yellow and purpley, yeah. So I'm gonna just tell you that it is on a black background, so that's like the purple part that you're seeing. The actual object under the microscope is that yellowish color.
All right, I've got another hand up on, let's see, Lori's screen. I've got another hand up there if you want to go ahead and make an observation.
Hair.
It looks like hair.
It kind of, yeah, it's stringy. It does look like hair. Yes. Anyone else want to make some observations? A lot of you are already going past the observations and making your own inferences. Like someone said it looks like a cat, someone said it looks like hay, and someone said it looks like hair. Those are great inferences, and I can tell that the observations you're making in your heads are leading you to guess those things. So
I think it looks like straw.
Straw?
Yeah.
It's a great inference again. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that the cat was the right inference. So this is actually cat hair under the scope, and if Lydia wants to pull up the macro image of the cat along with the cat hair. So this is actually cat hair from my cat. His name is Rankin. But yes, I brushed him earlier today and got some hair, and it looks pretty cool under the microscope, I think. So now that we see the macro image, what do you think, what can you infer about the hair? So like, what might the hair allow the animal to do, or might allow or provide for the animal? Could you make any inferences based on how the hair looked? Like I did with the mountain lion.
They actually look like straw.
You think the hair looks like straw? I kind of agree with you, actually. It looks really strange under the microscope.
Well, and it's about the same color as straw, so maybe this cat would blend in a barn, right? Because somebody said it looked like straw, somebody else said it looked like hay, so maybe this cat could be really sneaky in a barn where there's lots of hay and straw.
Ani, do you have a question?
Is it because they would keep warm?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what I was thinking, at least. The hair does provide it with a coat to keep it warm. So it can go out in winter, kind of like the mountain lion, right? Great. Do you guys want to see something else under the microscope? Okay, let's show something else. So I just have to focus in on it. One second. Does that look focused to you guys? There we go.
That looks good.
All right, I'll give you guys another minute to look at this one as well. Come up with some observations. What does it look like? What's the coloring? Anything that you notice before we try to guess what it is.
Nipan, do you have an observation?
Maybe it's inside the human body.
Whoa, it kind of does look like that, right? Kind of looks like skin in a weird way. I would agree with that. Anyone else? What about if we zoom out a little? Do you think we would see more if we zoomed out? Does it still look like it's inside the human body, or do you want to make another inference or observation about that? Yeah, Nipan, what do you think?
Now it looks a little more like a chicken bone.
Oh, that's cool.
That looks like a frog foot.
Frog foot, cool, okay.
Jerome, what do you think?
Yeah.
A fish.
A what?
Fish.
Fish. Yeah, I can see that too. What about you, Ani?
A butterfly wing.
Ooh.
Oh, Trey and Corinne said that too. That's what they had in the chat. They thought it looked like a butterfly.
Wow, yeah.
So you guys have all sorts of ideas.
That's great. Yeah, it looks like it could be all of those things under the scope. So this is actually a wing. It's not from a butterfly, but does anyone want to make any other guesses as to what it could be from? Ani?
Trey in the chat says moth.
Ooh, a moth. Yeah, so it is an insect. You guys are on the right track. I'm gonna give you a few hints. Maybe this will help you guess. So it's commonly found on flowers, and it hurts a lot when you step on it.
A bee.
Yeah, it's a bee. All right, so Lydia, do you want to pull up the macro image? All right, so this is a bee. Unfortunately, I found it dead in my house, but it did devote its life to being looked at under the microscope, so we appreciate that. But yeah, so this is the wing from a bee, and now that we see the macro image, what do you guys think the wings help the bee do? Can you make any inferences about that?
Fly.
Yeah. They help it fly. Yeah. Do you think they help it get food from like one flower to the next? You can pull. No. What about dispersing pollen? Is that helpful? The bee can fly? Okay. Well, you guys did really good here. You want me to show you another one? All right. So Lydia, if you want to just move to the next picture on the. So this, I have a microscopic image rather than something I'm going to show you under the microscope. This is just already just a picture under the microscope. I want to make some observations here. What
do you guys notice about this?
Ooh, maybe it's a cell. That's a cool guess.
What made you think that it might be a cell? Was it something about the shape or the color maybe?
Or maybe the size?
Observations. Oh, Nippon thinks it could be a flower. Cool. I like that idea.
Yeah. So, ooh. Does anyone want to say anything about the shape and the color? I'm noticing that it's pretty circular, right? That might be why someone said cell. Another reason someone could have said cell is because it takes up the entire field of view in the microscope. So we know it's pretty small, right? That could be another reason. So since we can kind of see the entire object, one observation I made is that it doesn't have any limbs, but we can see the entire thing. So I would assume that it doesn't need to move itself, and therefore I would assume that it might be moved by something else. And that brought me to think about what could be moving it. And does anyone have any guesses as to what could move it? Air, water?
So it looks like Nippon has a thought that maybe it could be a germ.
You know, it kind of. These are great guesses, you guys.
Can you? Can you zoom out?
We got a lot of
on it a
dirt.
little.
Can you zoom out?
Oh, I actually can't zoom out. This is the entire thing. So, do you guys want to know what it is?
What?
Yes? Okay, so this is actually plankton, and it lives in the lake. It lives in all lakes, actually. And it's moved by the water, so it doesn't need limbs or anything to move around or swim because it's just moving in the water and the waves in the water. And so plankton are essentially the base of the food chain for a lot of animals that live in the water. Yes. So,
But those of you who said it looks like a cell or a germ, that is really close because it is a single-celled plankton. So you are also correct. It is a cell. And germs might also be a single cell. So you guys were definitely on the right track. Your observations were leading you to a good place.
right. Based on the size, you all got, yeah, really, really spot on. That was really good. Okay, I think I will go to the next one just to make sure we have time for the game. Okay, so if you want to pin the microscope again, you could see this closer up. All right, what are some
I
observations?
think it's a leaf
A leaf? Why do you say that?
because it's green like it.
It's green, yeah. So these next two images we're going to look at under the microscope are from plants. So yes, you're right. It is a leaf. That was a really good guess. Kind of hard to know what plant it's from because it's so close up. But if you want to make some guesses, I'd say milkweed. That's a really good guess. I feel like it's practically impossible for you to guess this though because you're so close up. I think you'd need to know the shape of the leaf to actually know. But Ani, do you want to make a guess?
Bean plant. A bean.
Say that again.
Is it a grasshopper?
I thought we already established it was a plant. But grasshoppers are green and they do live on it.
A bean plant.
Sorry, wait. Ani, did you have something?
You need to speak up a little bit.
I thought it was a bean plant.
From a leaf of a bean plant.
Oh, yeah. Well, that is a good guess. Yeah, I actually don't know what a bean plant leaf looks like. So this is actually a leaf from a dandelion, but that's hard to be able to know. And then Lydia's gonna pull up the macro image. What do you guys think leaves allow the plant to do? Any guesses? Have you learned about it in school? Why are they green? Yeah, go ahead. If you have something, you can unmute yourself and share out.
So Trey has typed in the chat that the leaves help the plant grow.
Oh yeah, I don't see that in the chat, but that is exactly right. Yeah. Have you guys learned about photosynthesis and the leaves observing sunlight to grow? Yeah, and make food. That's definitely something.
Nippon would like to show you a microscope.
Oh, wow.
Love to see your microscope. Yeah, we saw Jacob and Jerome's microscope. I would love to see yours, Nippon, too. You want to show your screen?
Yeah, I think. There we go.
That's pretty cool.
Oh.
What do you look at under your microscope?
Stuff like blood cells and germs.
What? I wish we had some of those.
Some days I'm lucky enough and I'm able to put the slide into here, but some days I'm not. Let's see if today is one of those not days.
Wow, so you have slides to look at too?
The Australian Zoo. Let's explore together. Press the facts button to learn facts, or press the questions button for a quiz.
All right, it looks like we don't have much time left, so I want to be able to play a little game with you guys. So Lydia is actually gonna pull up some slides and have you guys see if you can make observations and inferences that allow you to figure out which image is not like the rest of them. She'll explain that a little bit more.
Give them an example.
Yeah, hey guys, are you ready to play a really fun game? So here's our first slide. Can everyone see the slide that has the pink background with 3 images on it?
If you turn this on, it'll be really loud.
So in this slide, I have 2 pictures that are plants and 1 that is not a plant. Does anyone have any observations that may help us figure out which image is not a plant?
The blue one looks like it's like cloth or something.
That's a really good observation. The texture is leading you to think that maybe it's not a plant.
But the other ones are kind of smooth.
Smooth. So that's a really great point. Texture can tell us a lot about what we're looking at. Does anyone else have other observations about the 3 images that we're seeing right now?
Only green.
Do you want to say something, Fern?
Fern has something.
I think it's the blue one that isn't a fruit.
What makes you think the blue one? It's because we don't use
Because it has string, small string that's like hair around it, like knit.
Like knit. Like knit.
You're exactly right. That is actually a t-shirt. So it is knit, it's a woven t-shirt. The other 2 images we have do come from plants. We have a burdock hook and some flower stamen, which both come from plants. Your observations were totally on point, and the inferences that you were making from them totally led you to the right answer. Do you guys want to do another one? We're doing another one. So here we have 3 images. 2 are minerals, which means they come from the earth and they're not living. And 1 of them does come from a living thing. Does anyone have any observations they want to share?
You want to say? You're actually unmuted. Go ahead.
It might actually be the first one.
What makes you think that, Fern?
Because like it has like tiny squares and not really like a mineral. Because minerals are kind of like shiny, cool, and like they don't have holes. Some do, but mostly don't.
That's a really good observation. Does anyone else have any observations they want to share?
The first one, I think the first one's not a mineral since I think it's like a bug eye since I see the texture and I think I see a nose.
So you are both exactly right. I thought I was going to be able to trip you guys up with this one because it's kind of shiny, but that first image is in fact a bug eye. Yes, so that is not a mineral. It comes from an animal, and then the other 2 photos we have come from salt, and then we have a rock. So again, observations were great. They led you to the same correct conclusion. Let's do another one, this time trying to figure out which one is not an animal. And you guys are pretty good at this, so this one's pretty tricky. So let's hear some observations. Oh, I think I see a hand from Fern.
I see lights, I see lights, I see lights. I think it's the first one. Because like it's scratchy, it looks like a gem and like it's not really animal-y.
It's not.
But what about the second one? It looks not animal-y.
What does the second one look like to you?
It looks like it has lights. I'm looking super close. It looks like it has lights. That looks like it isn't.
Does anyone else have
I
anything?
think it's the second one that's not an animal.
What are your thoughts? Which one do you think is not an animal?
Yeah, Ani, what do you think?
It's a blue jay feather.
Oh, so you think that middle one might actually be an animal? It might be a blue jay feather. All right, so this one is tricky, it seems like.
Oh, wait. But that's not a blue jay feather. They don't light up. That one is lighting up.
Yvonne has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you raising your hand?
Ipan, did you want to make an observation? Nope. All right. Well, that's that.
So we've had a lot of observations about the first two images and why we think they maybe are or aren't animals. What about the third one? Can we rule that one out as definitely being an animal?
That one's definitely an animal. It has fur and it looks like a llama.
It looks like a llama. So it looks furry, so that one has to be an animal. Okay, that's a good observation. Does anyone want to make a final guess on which image is not an animal? We could also take a vote.
You guys want to put your answer in the chat?
It's a bee.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it has a yellow color. It does look like the bee that I showed you guys under the scope.
Color can be really helpful for us when we're making observations. All right, so is everyone ready to find out which one is not an animal? Here we go.
Yep.
So that first image was not an animal. The one that is in the middle, I know that someone was saying that it looks like it was lighting up, and that's probably because of the blue streaks. Sometimes the way the light of the microscope reflects on an image, it can make it look like something shining, but that is just the blue streak of feather. This one was tricky because when we looked at the cat hair under the microscope, we saw those stringy lines. And so I thought I would be able to trip you guys up, but you guys had some pretty good observations. This one came from a flower, this is a feather, and then the third one is a bumblebee's body, which I think someone even said. Do we have time for one more, Elizabeth?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so another one, kind of tricky too, but you guys are really good at this. Let's hear some observations about these three images.
The third one is a plant. The second one, I don't know if it is, but I think the second one isn't. Since I think the first one looks like a underwater plant. Since it could be an underwater plant.
All right, looks like we have Ani and Fern who want to give some observations too. All right, so Ani, go ahead.
I think the middle one is not a plant.
All right. Fern, what do you think?
I also think the middle one isn't a plant.
All right, so it seems like we kind of have some consensus. What observations are leading you to think that that middle one is not a plant?
Because it kind of looks hard. Bumpy.
Okay, so we're thinking about the texture of it. It looks kind of hard and bumpy, maybe not like a plant. All right, that's a great observation.
Does anyone else want to make an observation before we figure out which one is not a plant?
Oh yeah, Trey and Corinne.
I think the second one is not a plant
Because it kind of looks like it's hard and it's kind of like painted.
Well, all right, so we're thinking about the texture again.
Those are all really good observations. Texture and color are definitely two things that are very helpful, especially when we're looking at things so close up. This one, I tried to make them all be similar colors, so we couldn't use that as an immediate indicator. So I think that it's really awesome that you guys all jumped to looking at the texture and saying like, hey, this second one just doesn't look like it would be a plant, it looks hard. And you are in fact correct. The first one is a thistle, the middle one is fabric, which is not a plant, and then the last one is pine needles. We do actually have one more. So these three images, one of them does not come from a mineral. So it's either a plant or an animal.
I know. First one.
The first,
First one.
you think the first one comes from a plant or an animal?
Since none of those things, the second or the third, have no animal has like rocky stone.
What about plants? Can plants look like any of the images that we're seeing?
No.
No. Okay.
No. The first one kind of looks like a rug.
A rug. So that's
Yeah.
not a plant, it's an animal.
Rainbow, since you can see colors.
Fern, what do you think?
The first one that's not.
What observations make you think that?
Because like it's fuzzy, and it's also there's tiny strings that can be rainbowy, like a rug, and it's not really like a mineral. It's not like hard. It doesn't look soft. It looks soft.
All right, so we're thinking about the texture and the color again. It looks soft and very colorful.
So I'm going to ask my friend Chloe to make some observations for us on these three. This is a pretty tricky set.
Well, so oh, go ahead. Does someone have something else to say?
I think you were hearing your own echo.
Oh, really?
You're good.
That's weird.
The only animal that has like a gray-looking stone body is an armadillo, but none of those look like armadillo since they have bands.
That's a good observation.
The first thing I observed about the first image is that it's very colorful, and I can't really think of an animal or a plant that would have that many different colors in it. So that's why I would say mineral for the first one, but it's really hard to say what it would be. The second one is kind of hard to tell too. It looks kind of brownish, which makes me think of some sort of wood.
That can't be wood.
Can't be wood?
Since it has like white. How can there be white?
That's a really good question. And it brings us back to that color. Can we think of maybe any trees that we see out and about that look
I had
white?
an idea. I just had an idea.
Sure.
Maybe the second one isn't.
What makes you think
it could
that?
be you know those trees that are white? The bark could have fallen off, so it looks like it's brown and white.
That's a pretty great
But
observation.
that's just a possible explanation.
That's definitely possible. Does anyone have any thoughts that could either confirm or deny what Jacob was saying?
Looks like Ani and Nippon have some ideas. It looks like Nippon might be typing in the chat. Ani, do you want to share?
I think the second one is pavement.
Oh, it's pavement. All right, that's an interesting idea.
What about the third one? Has anyone said anything about the third one?
Even my robot's confused.
It is.
Same metal. You think third one was that guy?
No,
I can't even figure it out.
no, it might be.
I know, it's so hard. I know.
Oh yeah, Fern, do you have something?
I think the third one might actually be metal.
Oh wow, it does kind of look like metal. It's shiny, right? That's a great observation. Ooh, something was weird. Ooh, Nippon wants to know what it is. Should we?
All right, it's time to reveal.
All right, so here comes the big reveal, guys. The middle one, in fact, came from a tree. So this first one, I know we were all saying like, oh, it's very colorful. It looks like it comes from a carpet. It's actually a computer screen. So everything that everyone's looking at a computer screen right now, and right now we're seeing kind of a yellow background with 3 distinct images. But when you zoom in on that, what you end up seeing is combinations of red and green and blue, which end up to our eyes appearing the way that we see our computer screen when we're zoomed out.
Why? Why would a computer screen be a mineral?
Because it's not a plant or an animal. That's just, I know, it's a confusing one. I'm so sorry.
God, you should have just talked about that. Should have been a stone.
So the middle one does come from a tree. It's tree bark. And the last one, I know Fern had said that it looks like metal. That comes from a penny. So all of your observations were pretty spot on. This one was tricky because we were looking at a computer screen and bark that looked not like the color of bark that we're used to seeing.
All right.
Well, playing, that was really fun.
Yeah, we're so glad that you guys could join us today. This was a lot of fun. We hope you enjoyed taking a look at some things on a different scale. And if you have microscopes at home, you are welcome to keep exploring and see what you can look at.